How did Michael Moorcock's Corum, The Prince in the Scarlet Robe, influence the development of Dungeons and Dragons? This is the Appendix N chat where I talk about how different books that Gary Gygax particularly listed in his Appendix N list of inspirations, how they fed in. You get very explicit ones like invisibility rings, for instance, and you get some more subtle ones where I've struggled to pick up very many examples of exactly where he's drawn on something. You get more environmentals, but here Corum is in the middle. It's not one of the. This is a kind of eternal champion story by Michael Moorcock, part of his big multiverse where you have many iterations of the same character saving the world in different dimensions, and this is, this is one of the ones I have enjoyed more of the. I've read 4 of his characters now, and this is in my top 1.5 or something. I enjoyed it. I've got a review up of this book. It won the British Fantasy Award, indeed, the first winner. It's sort of sword and sorcery, baroque sword and sorcery with lots of action and adventure and stuff. Now I've got 3 big things that I think look like, well, two are I think direct inspirations, and one maybe it's but probably one of many similar. And environmentally, there's stuff. This is probably environmentally much more of an influence on Warhammer and Warhammer 40,000. The 8-pointed star of chaos comes from his multiverse. It's the symbol of chaos. And this kind of very cold and uncaring, strange universe is very much a more Cockian thing rather than a Gygaxian thing. But as to direct influences, the most obvious is that, as far as I can tell, this must be where the Iron Hand of Vecna come from indirectly. Well, as in there's not a Vecna figure here, but there is the Hand of Cool and the Eye of Rin, which Corum ends up having, which are strange, almost self-willed magical items of fell import, which are very important to the plot. They are not depicted on the picture, so it's not much use showing you that. But yes, they're odd, non-human or quasi-human. I mean, one is an insectile eye, and the hand is 6-fingered. But yeah, they're dark artifacts, confusing artifacts. They're not direct analogues in terms of exact powers or exact agents. They're not from this evil god of secrets and undeath and so on. But it seems pretty. It must be where something like that. They're classic magic items. Moorcock is a big magic item. Inspiration. You look at the rune staff, or you look at Stormbringer, and a few other items actually in Hawkmoon particularly. But here, these are both classic magic items and also specifically look like they are the precursor to the Hand and Eye of Vecna. There's a whole thing where Corum lives in a particular universe in the multiverse, a particular sphere in the multiverse, which has 15 planes which you can travel between, which are closely connected parallel universes or something. Complex as to exactly what they are, but the point is the chaos gods he fights against each rule 5 of these 15 gods planes, and he has to travel between them, and some of them are the realms of the chaos gods and some are just normal places. And though it is not a direct analog for the 16 planes and the exact kind of system of the upper planes, especially when you say, well, the prime material isn't one of them, where it is one of these, it again seems like one of the more obvious, and planar stuff is something which Moorcock is one influence on, as is Philip Jose Farmer and the Incomplete Enchanter, Fletcher Pratt, and what's his name, Sprague de Camp. So those are other influences on the planar stuff, but this certainly 15 planes and the particular dynamic of some of that field and the travel between the planes feels like one influence on Gygax's manual of the planes, idea of the planes. And the third thing I picked up, and this is less direct. Those two I think are probably fairly direct. They are things where you can look and say, these are the books he read. This is where he got these ideas from. But there's an instance of some monsters, some allies of a evil wizard, I guess. Is he a wizard? I don't know. In King of Swords, the third of these books, who have a weapon immunity where they can only be harmed by their own weapons. And there are a few instances of this sort of logic in Moorcock in general. monsters having odd conditions for defeating them. And I'm sure there are other examples of the same thing too. It's something you can see with Macbeth. This idea that there might be conditions on what can kill a creature is not unique to Moorcock and it's not unique to Corum. But it just was a striking example of special condition for defeating a monster, normal weapon immunity, which is important in early editions of D&D, is part of the skill curve, isn't it? The fact you need to make sure you have the right equipment to deal with monsters. Anyway, those are some of my ideas about how the early Corum books from going up to 1971 influenced Gary Gygax and things he adopted into D&D. If you've got any more, tell me in the comments, and I will see you next time.